Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all, and it's cold. It's seriously cold, hence why we're all wearing jackets. It's also snowing outside, and it's still November. By the time you watch this, actually, it'll be December, but nevertheless, we shoot this on a Thursday. Get over it. The first question comes from Sachin Sawat on Twitter, who says, get this, it's a blockbuster. Ooh. Tottenham are 16 points off the title now. Who do they need to sign to challenge for it? They seem as far off now as before Pochettino took over. Now, quick stat, when he took over the season before, they finished 17 points off the title. So they're currently 1 point better off than they were 3 years ago. Under Tim Sherwood, was it? Tim Sherwood and Andre Villas-Boas in that final season. What do we think? Have they actually progressed?
Yes.
Or is it all a myth?
No, of course they have. 100% they have. And it's only halfway through the season. We're not even in January yet.
It's true, very good point.
They'll come to January, they'll pick up a couple of signings. I still think they need a centre-back for when one of their centre-backs gets injured. So currently, that's the biggest issue at the moment, in my opinion.
Eric Dyer does a job in there. You've got Davinson Sanchez, you've got Alderweireld, and you've got Vertonghen.
But since Alderweireld has been injured, have they had a big slump?
Yeah, but you're losing the best defender in the league. Any team that loses the best defender in the league is going to experience a slump.
But I don't think Eric Dyer can play centre-back anymore. He's played CDM way too long. He's been playing it for England as well now. If you play in a position week in, week out, and then you go, okay, I've got to play you in centre-back this week, you're not going to be used to it, are you?
I mean...
We don't know what he trains. Maybe in training he spends half his time playing as centre-back.
It's an interesting argument. I personally think they're more missing a creator. I think like the pressure you've seen recently on Eriksen, Dele Alli to both score goals and create is massive. Hence why we've recently seen Eric Lamela coming back into the squad. Pochettino bigging him up, haven't we? We've seen... How long has he been out for? Like a year? With two different hip injuries. So it's nice to see Eric Lamela back, but is he good enough to fill that creative void that they potentially miss on occasion? I'm not sure. We've talked about in the past the likes of Carrasco coming in. I think it was a big error of Pochettino's in the summer not to sign a third creator behind Eriksen and Dele Alli.
Well, I still think he thought he had Son. And don't get me wrong, he has been decent as well, especially last season. At the beginning of this season, been very good.
Yeah, I personally think Son could be the best backup striker in the league. So seriously, he could be. He's definitely in contention behind maybe Zlatan. Maybe you could. Don't want to say Gabriel Jesus is the backup,
I was going to say,
but potentially Gabriel Jesus and Michy Batshuayi. But he's more of a striker. I'm talking about a link man between midfield and attack, and there's obviously loads of options in the market, but it's the most costly position.
This season, actually, that creative burden has largely been shouldered by Ben Davies, hasn't it? Like, he's been creating something like 3 chances a game from wide, and it's great that he's been doing that, but he's been doing that in the absence of a kind of dedicated creative player, and it means then that that's more work for the centre-backs because Davies is so high up the pitch. I basically think Spurs are fine. Like, I think if you look at their last few games, you look at their shot counts, you look at the expected goals, just watch the highlights. You see a team that's really dominant. Like, they were dominant against Leicester, and basically a couple of mistakes plus an two amazing finishes from Leicester cost them. Like, they were pretty dominant against West Brom. They were bad against Arsenal. They were bad against Crystal Palace, though they did win that game. So, I mean, I think that they'll probably come out the other end of this. Like, Dele Alli's form is a bit of a concern. He's been bad this season. Like, he and Aaron Ramsey have had a body swap because Aaron Ramsey's been incredible and Dele Alli's been bush. But, I mean, I agree they need some creative backup. I think Lamela will help. Like, came on the other day for about 10, 15 minutes, got a through ball, got an assist. Like, that's not too bad. In fact, he did a classic Eric Lamela performance. He came on, got an amazing assist, like, then got booked and then committed a red card challenge while on a yellow card, which is pretty amazing. I don't know with Spurs. I think that they'll basically be fine. I really think Pochettino's a good manager. He's shown all along that he can solve problems with coaching. However, if I were him, I would probably go out and try and get like a backup striker who could also play wide, like a Richarlison in January. Or even if you had like...
Riyad Mahrez. Go and have a little nibble at Riyad Mahrez.
Or if you had the cash, you know, like, why not go for a Fekir? Why not go for a Forsberg? Like, they do have some money to go for one of those players. I think that would be quite exciting. Like, I don't know. Spurs are going to need to make a big signing to kick on at some point. They're obviously not going to win the title this season. That's partially because City is so good. But I still think they could finish second.
Yeah, I think the talk about them regressing this season is far too early. I completely agree. I think before Pochettino took over, they hadn't been playing in the Champions League since 2010-11. now we think of Tottenham as a consistent Champions League performer. They're topping a group with Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund in it. Yeah. The last 2 seasons, I think, under Pochettino, they've gone 5th, 3rd, 2nd, constantly improving. Okay, they're probably not going to hit those heady heights this year, but then look at how much Man United have spent. Look how much Manchester City have spent. And Pep Guardiola has got that City team running like one of the best teams, if not the best team in the entire world right now. So give Tottenham a bit of time, give Pochettino a bit of credit. It's a sort of Thomas Tuchel situation, isn't it, where he's not necessarily winning trophies, but he's doing a fantastic job with what he's got.
You can see the improvement on the pitch. It's so clear. Massive,
massive improvement. So, Sashin, I think you're being a bit harsh. We all agree that Tottenham are going to be fine this season. They've definitely progressed under Pochettino. Our next question was left in last week's comment section. If you want to be involved next week, leave your question down there with the hashtag SundayVibes. This one comes from Theo Thomas, who says, put yourselves in the shoes of Thomas Tuchel. If you could take over at any club right now, who would it be and why? And why isn't he back managing yet, Pat?
Basically, because Bayern didn't sign him. Bayern would have been the obvious place for him to go. And I thought that they interviewed him, but if they wanted him, they could have got him in straight away, I think. I doubt that he would have said, with the offer of the Bayern job, look, I'm going to wait till next year. I want to take the rest of this year off. That doesn't make sense. So it seems like they're waiting for Nagelsmann instead. Then the obvious place for him to go is Arsenal. And I think Wenger will leave next summer, but Arsenal have just hired Sven Mislintat, who of course had a real problem with Tuchel when they were at Dortmund. They clashed over the failed signing of Oliver Torres. So you kind of think, right, where's the next best option for him? He's a really, really good manager. But he has quite a lot of demands of a squad. It's difficult for him. He needs centre-backs who can cover wide. He needs really creative wide players as well. He needs a really fast centre-forward, and he needs a good distributor from deep. These are all things he needs. But I think that most of the big clubs could provide that. I kind of wonder if, Conte eventually walks at Chelsea and maybe he goes there. Or, I don't know who Klopp would leave Liverpool for, but if he did leave, then Tuchel would be the natural replacement for him. I just really, really don't know at the moment.
It's a shame he's not back manager. Would you have him at Chelsea, Jalab?
Only if Conte was to leave, which
you don't want.
I don't want, but I can see happening at the end of this season.
Yeah.
We've already spoke about how he's left several jobs due to transfers, and the summer just gone, it's already public knowledge that he wasn't happy with the transfers that had happened. We've seen one of the Chelsea people behind the board actually has left. He's left. So I'm not too sure. Though, again, we've heard that Thomas Tuchel at the Borussia Dortmund board, with the Borussia Dortmund board, they didn't get along that great. With Very Chelsea, true. It could possibly be even worse. We already know how Roman Abramovich literally takes no shit. Jose Mourinho, gone.
Yeah.
AVB, gone. Conte, probably gone at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But, I think he'd do a great job. I think we're already playing the football that he'd like to see. And then on top of that, he'd get our youth squad into the first team. And that, as a Chelsea fan, is the one thing I've wanted to see. Loftus-Cheek at Germany, brilliant. He scored for Crystal Palace last week as well. Tammy Abraham, Swansea, been brilliant for them before his injury. Again, got into the England squad. Ethan Ampadu, 17 years old. And for the few games he's played for Chelsea so far, brilliant.
And Christensen, Zuma. These guys as well.
The list goes on and on. And eventually he'll be able to get them into the first squad. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, Chelsea's a good shout. I kind of think Real Madrid could be an option for Tuchel. I'm not sure how much longer Zidane will be at the club come the end of the season. He's set himself such a high bar now, and we know that Florentino Perez chops the axe pretty fast, doesn't he? And I think Zidane may feel it pretty soon, especially how far they are off Barcelona. But I'm going to say Paris Saint-Germain. I think that PSG would be the perfect fit for Thomas Tuchel right now. A young, exciting, pacey, attacking side. Neymar and Mbappe under Tuchel would score thousands of goals. It'd be incredible. And I also just think that Unai Emery has such big targets this year, he won't hit them. I think he has to win the league title, he has to win the cup, and he probably has to get to a Champions League final. Such has been the financial investment from that Qatari board that they're expecting everything. They're expecting the world, and I just don't think he's the right man to deliver it.
Do you think PSG, do you think the players would adapt well to a disciplinarian like Tuchel? I think there is a little bit of a sense, and maybe this is just a sort of stereotype, but I feel there is a little bit of a sense of people going to PSG kind of as a holiday camp. You're going to win the league, you're going to play with great players, but they've never had a disciplinarian manager. They had Ancelotti, they've had Blanc, now they've got Emery, who's probably the most rigid of them all. If they get Tuchel in, Tuchel will bollock them. Tuchel will make them press, he'll make them defend, he'll make them better, but it's not going to be as fun for them.
Yeah, I agree. There's also that sense that I feel like there's quite a lot of prima donnas in that squad.
Yeah.
Neymar,
for what?
Cavani, Di Maria. But having said that, there are also exceptional talents. The likes of Marco Verratti, who's used to working extremely hard under the likes of Conte for Italy, and I think he would do really well under Thomas Tuchel. I think Neymar would potentially benefit from having a bit more of a firm hand behind him.
No, I agree.
In terms of his defensive output and his positioning. I think Mbappe, still young, would learn in a similar way to maybe Ousmane Dembele did, that Thomas Tuchel is such a genius that it would only improve his game. So I think there's potentially players that would do well, but there are, like you said, players that would have to go. I think Di Maria would be sold pretty fast.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. But having said that, that's probably what PSG need. They've got a lot of prima donnas in that squad. They've got a lot of overpaid players. It's quite a bloated setup as well. And I think that he would do miracles with that team, and it would take them to the next level. So I want him to join PSG. Pat's going Bayern Munich. Zach's going for Chelsea. But who do you think he's going to go to? Vote in the poll up there. The next question comes from Gideon Loeb, who says, if you were Pep Guardiola and wanted to sign a central defender in January, who would you go for? Would you go for Virgil van Dijk, Varane, or Jimenez?
Interesting selection.
Now, personally, I don't think any of those will move in January. I think Varane, just not going anywhere for Real Madrid. He would cost so much money. Jimenez, similar situation, potential for a move in the summer, but not in January. And Virgil van Dijk, he's just too expensive for a January transfer right now. Southampton would be charging close to 100 million, I think, if they wanted to move in January. They were rejecting moves for 70 million in the summer, so mid-season it's going to be about the same. I don't think they'll sign any of those three, but I think they have to sign a centre-back.
They've already got the issue of John Stones. When he's been injured, it means Vincent Kompany's have to come back in, and Kompany's injury record isn't that great either. What do you think about Mark Bartra at Dortmund? Is it again, you think they won't be able to get in January?
Yeah, I think he's okay.
I mean, they play together. He's been under Guardiola before, right? So he knows what to expect. I don't know, man.
You don't think they should sign a centre half?
Well, no, I think they should sign a centre half overall, but I think they're going to win the league whether they do or not. Like that's my feeling. Like, I think if they wanted to go to Real Madrid and get a defender, one they could actually get is probably Jesus Vallejo. Yeah. Who's like the young guy who was out in Germany, like Eintracht Frankfurt. He's really, really good, like huge kind of defensive output, lots of tackles and interceptions. So he's an active defender, but he also is a really, really good passer. Like when he was out last season, I think in the games that he played at Frankfurt, they conceded a goal a game, and in the games he was out, they conceded nearly 2 goals a game. Really? Like they lost 6 of the 9 he missed. He's really, really good defender. I think he's 21, 22, and if you make a decent offer to Real Madrid, they're probably going to say, you know what, this guy isn't getting a shot at our first team yet, so we'll let him go.
I think they might have another look at Johnny Evans. They were really keen on Johnny Evans in the summer.
But is Johnny Evans?
He's a horrible fit for Man City, I think.
But they had 2 or 3 bids rejected for them, didn't they? So Pep's clearly a big
he's good.
fan.
He's a good player. He's just don't think he's a good fit.
With the current state of West Brom, I actually think that he would much prefer to move now than he did in the summer. And I actually personally don't think he's too bad of a signing. As a cover centre-half for £30 million, get him in, and he can play the small games in the latter stage of the Premier League when you've already wrapped up the title and you're pushing for a Champions League.
He's going to cost so much more than £30 million.
You think?
Especially now with the situation West Brom are in. He's essentially he's probably their best defender at West Brom.
Yeah.
You think they're going to let him go for £30 million?
They turned down 30 for him in the summer, didn't they?
Exactly.
Did they? Oh, if they turned down 30 for him in the summer, then they
But also Johnny Evans. Johnny Evans is really good in a sitting defence, right? He's good in a conservative defence where he just decides when to step forward, when to drop back. Like, that's not what you get with City's defence. Like, their centre-backs have to cover huge amounts of the pitch. Like, they have to run around and be really active. That's why Otamendi gets sent off so much.
One thing I've been really surprised about, actually, is the lack of playing time that Danilo has got. I thought Danilo could potentially have come in as another centre-back option in a back three.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a battering ram like Kompany or somebody's going to fly out the line like Otamendi. More of an Azpilicueta sort of role that could potentially distribute from deep alongside John Stones and play that diagonal ball across the pitch.
And Kyle Walker was tried out there in the summer as well.
He's also used Delph as well for the left as well.
But Delph has been exceptional.
Yeah, well, Delph has been doing the other, instead of going into centre-back, he's been going into midfield from left-back when Kyle Walker's going into centre-back.
But I think if you'd have said at the start of the season, probably the best left-backs in the league have been Ashley Young and Fabian Delph, alongside maybe Sead Kolasinac as well. You'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So Danilo, for me, is a bit of a problem. Could he offer cover at centre-half? You look at him, if he does play a back three, Pep, which he seems to be erring more towards back four now, doesn't he? But you've got Vincent Kompany, John Stones, Otamendi, Mangala. Those are your Those are your four options for three centre-back places. We've seen John Stone injured, and we know that Vincent Kompany's injury record is patchy to say the best. So if those two were to get injured, I would not trust Otamendi or Mangala, especially at Champions League level.
True. Yeah. I suppose if it looks like the Champions League. Yeah, maybe they do it just because they're like, look, we're going to win the league anyway, but we could win the Champions League here. I mean, if you play a back three, I really do think you could play Yaya Toure in the middle of it. Like, just as a if you've got enough cover.
Played there at Barcelona.
If you play in the middle of a back three, like, yeah, but look at Per Mertesacker, he's played there for Arsenal. Rafa Marquez did it for years for Mexico. Like, if you've got like sufficiently kind of mobile centre backs around you, the middle player of a back three, it's less demanding.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually, thinking about it, the possibility of winning the Champions League is probably worth 35, 40 mil gamble.
Exactly.
Pep didn't play him at centre-back at Barcelona, did he?
He did, but of course he was much younger and quicker then.
He did. Yeah, I'm not too sure who they're going to sign. Are they going to sign anyone? What do you think? Let us know your thoughts down there in the comments box. Our final question comes from Greg Georgie, who says, what do you do about a problem like Henrikh Mkhitaryan? He's so 5 O's there, inconsistent. And it is true, he is really inconsistent. What would you do, Pato?
Oh, God, I don't know, man. Like, now Mourinho's calling him out in the press and stuff. He hasn't got an assist since, the first 3 or 4 games of the season when he got 5?
Yeah.
Like, I think Mkhitaryan's still a really good player, but, like, Mourinho's obviously had enough, and I would basically offer him to someone in January in exchange for a player you can get some use out of. Like, look, I don't think Arsenal are going to let you have Ozil, but you might as well offer him to Arsenal in exchange for Ozil, or part exchange. You might as well offer him to, Dortmund again and see who you could get in return there, maybe for a first option on Pulisic. I mean, I don't think they'll go for it, but he's basically contributing nothing at the moment. He can't get in the squad. Mourinho's bitching about him in the press, like, get rid of him.
Yeah, there's clearly problems behind the scenes. What do you think, Jalal?
I think you keep him. I think when he's on it, and at the beginning of the season, he's maybe one of your best attacking outputs.
Yeah.
Bar maybe Paul Pogba, who's very good. You've got Juan Mata, who, if you put as a player, not for Man United, as players, who's the best one? Juan Mata or Henrikh Mkhitaryan?
Yeah, I would take... I don't know, man. I would personally take Mkhitaryan, but Juan Mata for Manchester United is both very versatile, and he is a much better fit for a Jose Mourinho system right now.
I think unless you're getting a decent amount of money for him, I think he is turning 29 in about a month, which isn't great. Unless you're getting a lot of money for him in January, what's the point in selling him? What's the point?
I would definitely sell Henrikh Mkhitaryan.
How much would you sell him for?
I think you could probably get 30 mil. You can recoup your investment.
I reckon you get 30 mil for him.
Yeah, I'll tell you the point of selling Henrikh Mkhitaryan now. One, he's coming up to 29 years old, like you talked about. 2, he's not a good fit for this. The best example I can give of a player like Mkhitaryan is Angel Di Maria for Manchester United. Don't get me wrong, on his day, a brilliant player. On his day, probably one of the best creators in the entire league. But that day comes so rarely that it's not worth having him in the team. He's just not the right fit for Manchester United right now. He doesn't work in a midfield 3, and that's exactly what Jose needs from that creative midfielder in Juan Mata. He doesn't really even work as a right winger. He constantly wants to drift inside. So that takes up the option of having a third attacker. So at the moment, we're playing with Anthony Martial on the left, Lukaku and Rashford. That as a front three, you have to drop one of them to give Mkhitaryan a place in the team. And right now, he doesn't warrant it. He's been so inconsistent. He goes missing all the time in games for 40 minutes. You don't see him at all on the pitch. He doesn't pull wide, he doesn't run in behind. And right now, Man United have better players in their squad than him in that role. And he's just rotting on the bench or in the reserves.
Okay, so if he were to leave, where should he go? Because for me,
he'd go to anywhere.
Atletico Madrid.
He's a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal player. But for Manchester United, there's no point having Henrikh Mkhitaryan rotting in the reserves. You could fill up a squad space for a Mesut Ozil there.
Yeah, that's my opinion. That unless you're getting an Ozil or maybe even a Pulisic, what's the point?
But in the summer, you 100% Manchester United in the summer will sign a blockbuster name. He's gone out and done it every single year, Ed Woodward. And that blockbuster there is going to be either a creator or a striker. It's going to be either a Griezmann or a Bale or,
all
fingers
three.
crossed, maybe a Dybala or an Ozil. Somebody like that. One of those is going to join Manchester United in the summer. And what does that mean for Mkhitaryan? Because he's then 6 months further into a contract that runs out in 2 years. So you've knocked more money off his price tag.
He's coming up to 30.
He's coming up
Everyone
to 30
knows you want to
years
sell
old.
him.
He's had another 6 months of being in
On
the
the bench.
reserves,
Guess
inconsistent,
he's
not
playing the
scoring
long game,
goals.
That's a good point.
You've got to sell him. Cut your losses while you can. It's the same with Luke Shaw. Cut your losses in January.
Yeah.
Get him off the books. Get him off the wage bill. And people pay more in January. They do, because they need quick fixes for problems. And there's a fair few teams that could do worse than sign Mkhitaryan. Henrikh Mkhitaryan would be fantastic for a team like Tottenham Hotspur. But
he would.
equally,
Oh, he'd be really good.
hopefully we don't sell him to Tottenham because they're too much of a direct rival. Sell him back to Dortmund. Please sell him back to Dortmund. But I personally think he should be sold, Greg. These boys kind of agree. Zach's not too sure. But what do you think? Should we keep him? Should we sell him? What's going wrong with Henrikh? He's just too inconsistent. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We're out of time on this episode of Sunday Vibes, but make sure you get your questions in the comments below using the hashtag Sunday Vibes to be featured next week. Zach Jalab, what else is happening on all of our channels?
FDFC, James Wayne, Michael McCubbin, their non-vlog, their non-league vlog is going out on Saturday. Great name.
Yeah, the non-vlog. Hopefully that is the name for this round, Pato.
Head over to 90+1 Facts, where we have just had a video go live on Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Almost said Henrikh Mkhitaryan.
Oh.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic and everything you possibly want to know about the big bull.
Oh, thanks so much for watching. Bye.